You really need to talk to your staff because someone suckered you into coming on Studio 12 today. That's got to be short on the list to do, but now you're stuck with Will and I for the next 30 minutes.
Oh, I couldn't think of anything better to be doing.
Oh, that's a good answer. I like this.
I got my combat boots on, too.
That's right. Yeah, you may need them.
Eric Hyman, our athletics director, with us here for the first half hour of Studio 12, presented to you by Alpha Graphics. Matt and Will with you here, coming to you from the south end zone of Kyle Field. And this, we were talking before we came on the air, this is kind of one of those times a year where you've got a lot of stuff going. Football's obviously going, but now basketball's about to start. The other sports are about to start. Things will get busier and busier from this point forward.
Well, we're hosting the SEC Cross Country Championships on Friday at 10 o'clock for the men and 11 o'clock for the women, if I remember correctly. So that's going on in addition to everything else going on, and it's just you get on that treadmill and you go as fast as you possibly can. And hopefully you won't fall off too many times.
Yeah. When you do, you just dust yourself up and get right back on it because it never stops.
That's exactly right. It's people don't understand. They don't really understand the job, which is fine. But when you get, everybody thinks the summer is a little bit downtime compared to the rest of the year. It is, but compared to what it was about 20 years ago, there's no way. I mean, it's just no way. It's full speed sprint.
Yeah, no doubt. And like Matt said, football's kind of home stretch here. Not necessarily home stretch, but the final month of the regular season will be here soon. Basketballs are going to start up in November, and then the winter sports on to the spring, yeah. But when we think about football, it's been a tough two-game stretch, Alabama and Ole Miss. And, you know, you've been in coaching, and you've dealt with football programs that you kind of had to build from the ground up. Some folks like to picture the sky falling when there's a two-game losing streak. But I look at you, Eric, and I mean, you've seen far worse than this.
I tell you, it goes back to when I was a young coach, 1978. Was coaching at Furman, and we won the Southern Conference Championship, first time ever in the history of the school. And I mean, everybody was supportive. The fans were coming out of the closets, everybody. So the next year we start off 0-5, and they just bailed on us. I mean, bailed on us. And we had 3 supporters, and I learned a very valuable lesson as a coach and as an administrator. That's when things aren't going well, that's when you need support, and that's when you need help. And so, ironically, we ended up winning 5 out of the last 6 games, and the next year we were the champions again. So, football's not a game of perfect, and there's adjustments, and you got to adapt and make transitions to certain situations. And what amplifies that is we're in the toughest division of the toughest conference in all of college sports. And so, so you're going to have some bumps and bruises along the way. You're going to have some things that are going to take place. There's an expression I've always used: adversity introduces you to yourself. And so now we're being introduced to ourselves. And so as we go forward, we've got a great man at the helm of the ship, and this is not his first rodeo. He's been through these things together. Every year is a little bit different because you're playing with your participants are different, and the situations, the circumstances are a little bit different, but you've got a great man at the helm, and so we've had a little choppy water. I mean, that's what's going to happen. We've had some hurdles we have to go through, but not that it's going to be absolutely smooth sailing. It never is. But you meet these challenges, and you move the program, and you learn from the experiences, and you continue to move forward. Darn football teams 5-2. I think there's a lot of schools in the country would give their eye teeth to be 5-2.
No doubt, and still a lot of football to be played. Opportunities abound.
There's tremendous opportunities, and it's fun. We're a young football team. And it's a fun team to watch, the maturation process go through our team, and to see how they grow and they mature and they develop. And so to me, it's exciting. It's very exciting.
And I think it's good in a way, and Coach references too. He talked about talking with his accountability council and talking about, the word he got from all of them was frustrating. He says, and I get that. We're frustrated. They're frustrated. The fans are frustrated. And he likes it that way, because if you have a fan base that's not passionate about it, then that sort of, I don't want to say defeats the purpose, but that shows how proud A&M fans are of their team. And you can understand the frustration, but then again, you have to step back and say, we're 5-2. We still got a lot of good stuff on the table to play for.
We're not throwing it in just yet, but it's like I said to you earlier. You want to have passion as opposed to apathy. and the passion is all wrapped up, and that's what makes Texas A&M a great place. That the Aggies care, they're concerned, they want to do well. Everybody wants to do well, but as I've said before on numerous times, football's not a game of perfect. And life isn't a game of perfect, and you got to be able to learn from some of the things that you go through, and from some of those experiences that you have in life. Whether you're an Aggie, whether you're a football player, whether you're a tennis player, you learn through those, and then you make you better off for having gone through it, and then that gets you on the path to success. What you want to be able to do to reflect Texas A&M and what their aspirations are competitively.
You mentioned your coaching history earlier, and I wanted to ask you, clearly it's not a requirement for the job to be an athletic director to have coached. However, I'll bet you reference that in your daily work, maybe every single day, just kind of leaning back on some experiences back then.
Well, yes, I do think I don't know that many athletic directors today have had coaching experience. The profession's changed dramatically, and they have professional schools to go to. There's learning, and where they never had it was just by trial and error. When I was start, they didn't tell me how to do all these things. I just learned and learned the hard way on some of it. But
much like this show, actually,
Yeah,
the trial and error thing.
We wing it as we go.
No, I think your point's well taken. I have recruited, I have coached. I've coached men on the college level. I've coached women on the college level. So I've done a lot of those things. So I have understanding and I have an empathy. Now, sometimes that might be good news for a coach. Sometimes that might be bad news for a coach, because as I've said, I'm not Johnny off the pickle boat. I mean, I have done some of these things. I do understand it, and I do understand the profession and how it works. But in the same light, I had the empathy. It has changed a lot since I coached, but on the flip side of it, there are some things that have not changed, and that's when you're dealing with young people.
And those young people, is it important for everybody who watches them to remember, essentially, they're still growing up, and they're having to do so in the limelight, making that maturation process even a little more difficult when each mistake can be seen by so many.
It's magnified unmercifully. And I talked to a young person yesterday that had stubbed his toe. And we sat down, and I told him, I said, it's so much more difficult for you today because of the visibility and social media that you're under. And they don't allow you to make mistakes. And as we all know, males go through the maturation process a little slower than females do. And so we're all learning as time goes on. And I said this to a group of people I spoke to when we had a couple football players that had maybe had done some things they shouldn't do a couple of years ago. And there was about 800 people I was talking to, and I said to them, and I knew this was a front burner issue. These football players have gotten in trouble, and why can't you keep them straight, and what's going on in the profession of college athletics. And the question I asked, I said, how many of you have children? Please raise your hand. And about 90-some% raised their hands. And then I turned around and I said, do you have 1, 2, or 3 or 4 children? And yes, they all nodded. And I said, okay, put your hands down. I said, well, guess what? I got 650 of them, and somebody's getting in trouble right now. And so all of a sudden, it's like the light went on, and they understood it, and they understood that we're dealing with these, and they're not perfect. And so you're trying to help them go along. And unfortunately, going back to your statement, it's very, very difficult for a young person today. And, of course, the higher visible sports like basketball and football and baseball and women's basketball and some of those others, you're under a lot more scrutiny. And so, I look back and I almost break out into a cold sweat when I was young, and some of the things that I did that nobody ever caught me doing. And if I had been today, I would have been guilty. And it's tough. So you got to be empathetic, but you also got to be able to. You can lead them to the water, but you can't force them to drink. There are some things that they have to do also, but we want to be able to supply the support system where they can be successful, no matter what they were trying in life.
And I think about what we've got coming up this weekend as Eric Hyman, our AD here at Texas A&M, joins us. And, we're going to talk later about things like Aggies Can, the food drive that the Student Athlete Advisory Committee puts on. Also, the special 12th man towels that will be on sale. The benefits there will go to flood relief in the state of South Carolina. We see things like that at Texas A&M a lot. Student athletes and really students on this campus in general wanting to help their fellow man. those are the things you don't hear about. But
That's-
these student athletes are doing so many things like that time and time again.
That's the pillars of what Texas A&M is built on, is they really care. And it's not, they're just not mouthing it, they're backing up by what they do. And that's like our student advisory committee. They wanted to help the folks in South Carolina. It's like they're in our family. And they might be a brother, and we might get mad at them sometimes, knock them down or whatever.
You go at your brother.
Yeah,
at
we go
times.
after the brothers, but then again, that's inside the family. But outside the family, we're going to protect the heck out of them. And that's what the Student Advisory Athletic Committee had wanted to do something to help them. And they had some ideas, and then I've sat down and brainstormed with Jewel May and Kelly Benjamin, and we came up with an idea as far as the towel is concerned. And they wanted to do something and sell the towel. And we were, thank goodness, CC Creations gave it to us without any kind of cost, which I really tip my hat to them. So all the proceeds will go back to the flood relief victims, and I do happen to know some folks, and it's sort of like what a tornado could come here and level College Station. That's basically what happened to parts of South Carolina. They've just been leveled, and I've known numerous people that have lost everything, their houses, everything, been rescued in John boats, and so these people are really struggling. Well, this is family. This is SEC, and this is what makes SEC so special, is we look after each other and we try to help each other out. So we would really be greatly appreciated if our fans would support and buy a towel. It's only $5, and buy a towel, and then know that our student athletes, our SAC committee is supporting on this, and this is their initiative, and this is something they want to do because they want to give back to their brethren that are in the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, and for those of you on campus, 11 to 2 each day this week, Rudder Fountain, they are selling the towels right now, and then also I believe they're going to be sold maybe at the scrimmage tonight. I know they're going to be at the equestrian show tomorrow. And then, of course, prior to the game, you find the lime green shirt for Aggies Can, and you will find the towels right there. That's the easiest way to do it as you come to the game tomorrow. We're going to repeat this information as well.
Let me interject something also. The students, the officers of the SAC are going to go see President Young, and tomorrow around 11:30 he's going to have to come off with some money off the hip and buy some towels.
Hopefully he's not listening, because then he might try to go.
But no, he's probably high. But Dr. Pugh did, and he supported, bought some. We've had our coaches do the same thing. Gary Blair has been very supportive of it and got it announced. We've had a wide cross section of different people. I think Coach Sumlin mentioned it on his press conference, or had a picture taken and went out on social media. So our athletic department is really embracing it, and they want to try to help some of their fellow peers that are really struggling, and it's in a time of need. But that is what makes Texas A&M special.
And if you haven't seen the towel, the design is quite neat. The word "together" with the O being replaced as the shape of the state of South Carolina, has both teams' logos on it. So look for it throughout the week and game day, certainly.
Exactly. And we're going to repeat this information for you folks in just a few minutes as well. And then later in the show, we're going to hear from Kelly Benjamin as she talks about the towels and the Aggies Can donations as well.
Welcome back to Studio 12 from the south end zone of Kyle Field. Rolling along, we're talking with our Director of Athletics, Eric Hyman, here on this Wednesday show. This Saturday, 11 a.m. is kickoff between Texas A&M and South Carolina. Will Johnson and Matt Simon back with you. And we were talking about the towels, the special 12th man towels. It'll be sold $5. You can get them throughout the week on campus. You can get them on game day. And proceeds go to flood relief in the state of South Carolina. And we're expecting some weather Saturday morning, quite frankly. That maybe wasn't the major disappointment for me. Mine came a few weeks ago when Steve Spurrier announced that he would resign at this point in time. I always wanted to see him at Kyle Field. He's been one of my favorite figures in college football since I started watching the game in the late 80s. Loved him. Was ready to get my iPhone out in pregame, whether it was appropriate or not, to take pictures of him standing on Kyle Field. He won't be here, but he's a man you knew very well, still know very well. And college football's lost there with Steve Spurrier.
I don't think there's any question about it. I've been very blessed in my professional career to work with some absolutely off-the-charts football coaches, head football coaches, that have gone on to have successful careers. And I put Steve right at the top. I mean, he was a wonderful human being. He's a lot different, as we were talking about before, than a lot of people think. He's very humble. and he's confident on what he can do, and he knows, and he's got a heck of a proven track record. But he was very low maintenance, and he and his wife were just superb to work with. He's got a great football mind. He calls a game about as well as anybody I've ever seen. And how he approaches it, he was in terrific shape, and I was surprised. I wasn't surprised necessarily that he resigned, but I was surprised as when he did it.
Right.
That sort of surprised me. But obviously, it was a challenge this year, and he didn't have it. He didn't have the fire in his belly, and so he said, from what everybody's has talked about, that he didn't have that energy going forward. He would be doing a disservice to people, the players in the state of South Carolina, and the Gamecocks, and all those. So that's why I decided to go in a different direction.
And as that coach that's in you, do you have some keys to Saturday's game? What the Aggies need to do, where maybe they can hit the Gamecocks a little bit? Any keys for you to Saturday for the Aggies?
Well, I haven't watched any film, and I think that question ought to be reflected to our football coaches. I've always said we got to worry about ourselves first, and not worry about other people. If we do things the way we can do things, I think everything will fall into place. And we just need a little momentum going forward. But I haven't really watched South Carolina. I watched them play some games, so I haven't studied them like the coaches studied them. I knew last year that they weren't as good as everybody was said they were, and because they had lost so much on their defensive front. I didn't know the score was going to end up being what it ended up being, but I thought going to Williams-Brice made me nervous because they'd won like 17 or 18 straight games, and then coming in, that's where I was a little nervous about. But quite frankly, I didn't think their talent at that time. There had been a big drop-off with Jadavian Clowney, their defensive tackle, Quincy Corals, and then their defensive end and some folks like that, and it's hard to replace those folks.
Yeah. Will was a little starstruck. He walked out on that field, saw Spurrier standing out there last year.
When I saw him, I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, if I'd have known it was going to be like that, I would have come over and introduced you. He would have taken a selfie right in the middle of the game or before the game. You should have told me that.
We missed the chance, Will. You missed your chance.
Let me wear his visor for a little while.
I got one of the visors. I'll give it to you.
All right. Good deal.
You mentioned momentum a few minutes ago, and I think that's a great word to describe our basketball programs heading into this season. Ready or not, the seasons are here. The seasons are here. The men's scrimmage tonight at 7 o'clock, free scrimmage at Reed. The women have their first exhibition on Sunday afternoon. Talk about these two programs. Maybe start with the men, as the men have a whole lot of momentum. They were this close last year to getting into the NCAA tournament with a lot of freak stuff happening at the end to kind of keep them from that. All accounts on paper and what Coach Kennedy's got going, this should be a pretty fun season.
Well, we were within the gnat's eyelash last year. We were so close to the NCAA. Unfortunately, as we all know, we had an injury that was a deterrent. I was fortunate to be able to watch the team play in their European trip in Italy and in Greece. We have talent. I don't think there's any question. I'm excited with Daniel House and Jalen Jones and Alex Caruso, and then our young people and our people that are here last year. Some of the Robinson and Miller and some of the other folks, Tony Trosha. I mean, we've got across the board. We have some talent. It's just a matter of putting those pieces of the puzzle together. And as you all know, basketball is so much chemistry, and it appeared that we have really good chemistry. And so I'm disappointed, unfortunately, but Elijah Thomas needs to get some practice, and he's been out for a long time, and he's going to be a main cog for us, but I'm not sure when he's going to be back. But him being hurt doesn't help things. Yeah. Whereas a freshman, you need to get that kind of exposure and that kind of practice and that kind of experience. But I'm looking forward to the women's basketball team. I had a chance to go down and watch them practice. We continue to grow inside. Continue to get better inside. I think we'll put a really good product on the court. I think we've got some good backup. We've got some good players. Our inside game needs to improve, needs to continue to improve. And if it continues to improve, we can hold our own against just about anybody.
Will, two pretty incredible home schedules, too.
Oh, man. They both loaded up. But I would venture our men and women are playing two of the most difficult non-conference schedules in the SEC. And, some terrific matchups for both of them. I thought it was interesting last year. The men, when it got down to crunch time late in the season, they had that significant injury with Daniel House. The women, too.
Same thing.
And Jordan Jones doesn't get to play in the NCAA tournament.
Jordan Jones, and she's a stalwart. She's the best defensive player in the SEC in women's basketball. She was a killer. And unfortunately, that had a huge impact on us as we've participated in the first round. Not having her there, she was the heart and soul of the program. And to lose that, even though she physically was there supporting the team, but she was not able to play, but that made a dramatic impact on us. And hopefully we had the depth to sustain something like that if we were to have, unfortunately, to have something like that this year.
Yeah, and I also think that was looking back late last year. Think about the start of basketball seasons this year. That November 13-14 weekend needs to be a sporting weekend for all of the 12th man, because you'll have your final home football game, which
Correct.
is senior day on November 14th. But the night before, the 13th, it's an opening night doubleheader at Reed Arena. 6 o'clock for the women against Texas State, 8:30 for the men against USC Upstate.
And they're very, very good.
They won 24 games
Don't
last
kid
year.
yourself. I know their coach real well, and he's exceptional. And don't get misled by the name of the directional school, USC Upstate. They were a fantastic team last year, and we'll have our work cut out for us.
Yeah, and that just needs to be a weekend for our fans. If you're coming in for the Western Carolina game and senior day for football, I mean, you need to make it a Friday, Saturday thing, because that'll be big when we get to
we
it.
We want our fans to OD on Aggie sports, and then they walk out and when they're finished with the weekend, we want them to say, we want more.
Yeah.
We want more.
Yeah.
We want to come back and experience it.
No question.
Exactly.
No
Well,
question.
and one of the big things this weekend, of course, the football game is going on. We talked about the towels and what the Aggies can. Details are on 12thman.com for those of you that are interested with the sales. Going back to help the flood victims in South Carolina. SEC Cross Country Championships coming up Friday. We're actually just about to talk to Wendell McCraven and a member of the cross country team as well to kind of get a preview on that. So as with every weekend, there seems to be a whole bunch of stuff to do.
There's a lot of things going on in cross country. If you've never seen it, it is. And our cross country track is as good as there is. And the course that we have, because you can stand and you can watch, which is real unusual for a cross country course. You can stand on a certain side and you can watch the whole event unfold, and it's really exciting to be able to watch it. So I encourage our folks to come out and support some of our Aggie cross country athletes and watch them perform on a high level. And you've got Arkansas, which is perennial one of the best teams in the country here. I think they're second ranked in either men or women, and their women are ranked. If the other one is ranked like in top 8 in the country. So we've got a lot of good programs in the SEC. But come watch our Aggies run.
I like to do that's how I like to handle running. I like to watch other people do it. I can't handle the actual physical running myself.
Oh, yeah. Matt's not about to exert any effort here.
It's just then you start sweating and it's not good.
Well, then come out and watch them.
Yeah.
That I can do.
He's in. He's in.
You don't have to sweat at all. You
That
can watch
I can
other
do.
people sweat.
It's been a nice morning. All right, well, we certainly thank you for the time. We'll see you Friday cross country, Saturday football here, and best of luck with all of it. We'll see you soon.
And tonight at their scrimmage.
Yeah, maroon and white game.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it, and let's go support the Aggies.